Hello and welcome to episode 45 of the Movie Bros podcast. We are your hosts as always, Duncan and Hayden. Hello, hello.
Welcome back, folks. I'm Hayden. He's Duncan.
If you are new, welcome. If you're not new, yes, indeed, welcome back. If you have stumbled upon this is a weekly, or at least we try to be as close to weekly releases as possible podcast of two brothers who watch a movie, discuss that movie, and ramble and banter and debate it. I know it's an incredibly original prompt for a podcast, but hey, you're still here listening for whatever reason, so we got you hooked, line, and sinker. We cover everything from, action, thriller, comedy, drama, romance, sci-fi, fantasy, historical, epic. Just a little bit of everything. If you have suggestions on what we should be watching, you can reach out via Spotify comments, or you can use Instagram at @themovie_bros. This should also be on YouTube, if I've done this correctly, as well as Amazon and Apple Podcasts. I know it's on YouTube, but I don't have confirmation for the other two. Either way, that's how you can reach out. And these range. Sometimes they're short. They're like 35, 40 minutes. Sometimes we have
Like an hour and a half.
and they're an hour and a half. Yeah. So if you're looking for an actual conversation, that's what this is. If you're looking for something short, sweet, and singular, there is the Dunk's Movie Corner, Dunk's Movie Corner pod or podcast. That's just me, where I ramble for like 10 minutes about what I watched in a week. But this is an actual conversation, which I honestly prefer. That's where you can find us and get in touch and all those things. The movie that we are going to be discussing this week is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. And yes, that is a mouthful. Yes, we're going to address it. And yes, it is a Part 1 that, if you look now, it is no longer, the Part 1 is no longer a part of it in the title.
It is weird, depending on which, so we watched this at our parents' house because they had a physical copy. They bought their physical copy before the title for the next one had been announced. I think if you go and buy physical copies for it now,
Sure.
It has a different name.
Well, they simply dropped the Part 1 part because It's just Dead Reckoning, and then Final Reckoning is the next one. And that's kind of the reason why we chose to watch this one for this week, because the next one, and potentially the last one, because it is like, quote, the Final Reckoning.
We'll get into
my breath, to be honest. Comes out in, I think, 2 or 3 weeks at this point, so that's why we're kind of prepping ourselves with this.
Yeah.
So Hayden, what's some fast film facts about Dead Reckoning Part 1?
Well, as we say, this is Dead Reckoning Part 1. This was released in 2023. This is written and directed by Christopher McQuarrie, and he's done like the past 4 or 5 of them. He's very solidly... He knows what he's doing as far as Mission Impossible movies. I think he did.
Did he? Hold on.
I think he did all of them all the way back to like Ghost Protocol or something.
Which I've liked all of his Mission Impossibles, but is he the one who did Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny? Who am I thinking of?
That's not him. That is what's his name? He also did
hold on, let me look it up. Dial of Destiny. James Mangold.
Yeah. Because he also recently did
Ford v Ferrari, Logan.
That's what I was thinking
Yuma,
of. Yeah.
Which, that's a separate conversation, but like all those movies are bangers, and then Dial of Destiny was so...
I thought it was okay. I thought it was going to be a lot worse. It could have been worse. It could have been a lot better.
It's weird. After watching that, and I've seen a lot of snippets from the other Indiana Jones. I mean, this is a whole separate ramble, but who cares? That's kind of the point of this podcast. But I've been so I'm at my work. They've got AMC, like the channel we're going.
Sure.
They've just been basically playing Indiana Jones nonstop for the last like week and a half.
So there are worse things.
Exactly. So I've seen basically all the other movies at some point throughout the day. And
sure.
Honestly, without the last like 25-30 minutes, Crystal Skull is pretty good.
Especially
I don't know. When you watch Dial of Destiny, I was like, oh, like this, like the Crystal Skull, he plays a guy, but he's not, 80. He's like, maybe like 60. maybe.
Right, but like in Dial of Destiny, he would be 80. I didn't mind
I
that
know, but
they
that's
played him older.
well, no, I don't mind it that like I'm glad he's playing his actual age, but like I don't really I don't know like an 80-year-old geriatric like
Well,
Indiana
that's
Jones
why
like
lots of the other
thwarting the Nazis. Come on, dude.
well, that's why lots of the rest of the movie is also with Phoebe Waller-Bridge. So it kind of evens out.
Eh, I don't know. I would
Do
maybe this
I
is a
do
separate
I
conversation,
I
but
mean I mean am I going to say, "Oh, I enjoy it more than the Spielberg and George Lucas ones?" Absolutely not. Do I enjoy it more than three-quarters of Crystal Skull? Absolutely.
well, I guess I would when I think about it, I would rate it as number 3, number 1. Honestly, I might put Crystal Skull ahead of Temple of Doom. I've just never really liked it as a movie.
Well, Temple of Doom, compared to the other ones, I mean, even including Dial of Destiny, there's so little like
Yes.
treasure and adventuring
Yes.
going on.
Oh, and it doesn't even feel very like
Well,
archaeological.
yeah, exactly. Like
It doesn't yeah.
he's not digging up tombs. He's not solving puzzles. He's just been captured by crazy
A
Indian
cult.
horrible
Yeah.
stereotypes.
Yes. Yes.
Which, fun fact,
So,
the Indian government hates that movie so much it's banned in the country because they think it is such a bad representation of their culture.
well, of course it is. So, Last Crusade, then Raiders of the Lost Ark, then I would say Crystal Skull, then maybe Dial of Destiny, and then Temple of Doom. I don't know. The
I
last two are
I
kind of fuzzy.
I agree with you that the last two are kind of fuzzy and equal in the way that I would compare them to the other two, but I think I would switch um Raiders with Last Crusade just because
Really?
well I think I think Last Crusade is the objectively better movie, but you
Yes.
enjoy it more once you've seen Raiders and you already know these characters.
I mean, to a certain degree, but like I feel like there's so much more character development and like flushing out their backgrounds in Crusade. Like the whole dynamic with Sean Connery is fantastic. There's
Well,
actual like
sure.
puzzly stuff throughout the movie. There's Nazis. Come on, there's a beautiful, crazy Russian or no, German chick.
Oh, the blonde girl?
Yes,
Yeah, super, super, super attractive.
I mean from a different time, but
I
yes.
well, sure, but like, I mean,
And
I
they've
don't
got
know.
I
I
don't know.
just, I guess for me personally, I enjoy the, the Lost Ark, storyline more than I enjoy, uh, the
The
Cup of
Holy Grail
Everlasting
versus
Life.
uh,
I don't know.
yeah, but
I think that's more fun.
even in the Last Crusade, they show him as a little kid. Like they didn't
Agree
do
to
that in the
disagree
first
then.
one.
Agree to disagree then.
Okay, all right. Where I don't even remember where. Oh, the director. That's how we got started talking about that.
Okay, so written directed by Christopher McQuarrie. Music here is Lorne Balfe. Is a favorite of mine. I own Dead Reckoning and Fallout, the soundtracks physically, but also he's done a ton of other stuff. It would take a long time to list them all. I'm sure our listeners can go out and use Google. Cinematography here is by Fraser Taggart. It's not a name I recognize, but I would assume at this point it's kind of like the Mission Impossible crew, but you use the same people each time. So I gotta assume he's probably there for the other ones. This stars the man himself, Tom Cruise, obviously. Haley Atwell, Simon Pegg, Ving Rhames, Rebecca Ferguson, Vanessa Kirby, Isai Morales, and features in smaller like bit roles Pom Klementoff and Carrie Ells. And then my fun fact for this week is this was nominated for 2 Oscars and fortunately did not win either one of them. What do you believe they were, Duncan?
Well, it's not for stunt stuff because that wasn't a thing yet.
I mean, you'd think, like, I mean, alternate reality. This comes out like next year. You gotta think it's that it's taking that.
I'm sure. Well, I mean, Final Reckoning will also probably take that, but
Yeah.
maybe some sort of sound design or something. Maybe, but
So you're right. This
uh,
got nominated for best sound design and best visual effects.
best visual effects.
Well, I mean, you got to remember the long drawn out train sequence. None of that's there.
Yeah, I guess. Like,
I mean, obviously
okay,
it
all
didn't
right.
win, so something else was better.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, even if I don't want that to win, I don't know what else was nominated, but I didn't want that to win.
2023, that would be the year of Everywhere All at Once, so it probably also grabbed
Oh,
it
yeah, that probably did win that because yeah, that would have should have won.
because there's just so much of insane visual stuff going on
Yes, like
constantly.
constant insane shit. Yes.
Well, that's kind of all I have for information. Do we want to? So I should mention for the listeners here, as we watch this at my parents' place, usually, and I think Duncan probably does something similar. I will keep like my laptop open if I'm watching something for the podcast, and I'll write down notes and I'll write down things I want to bring up. I didn't do that this time, so this might be
Me
more of
neither.
a off the cuff, breezy kind of episode. That being said, Duncan, where would you like to start? Would you like to do ratings? What would you like to do?
Well, I'm quickly googling the plot for this one just so I can, as like I'm reading it, remember all the different parts to talk about.
It was 2 days ago.
It's also basically a 3-hour movie,
It well,
which that is something I should say. I mean, it is
we'll get to
nonstop
that.
the whole time, but it does. I don't know. It feels overstuffed to me.
I think it definitely feels overstuffed. If if I want to put on my armchair like director's cap, I feel like they decided to make a part two while they were filming it, and there was possibly a different ending because the entirety of the aforementioned train sequence feels tacked on because before that there was a natural end to that story.
Well, looking at just Wikipedia now, it looks like in January 2019, Cruise announced the next two Mission Impossible films, which would have been Dead Reckoning and Final Reckoning, would be
Well, I mean, I
shot
guess
back
I'm
to
wrong.
back with McGuire writing and directing both. Hmm.
I mean, even I mean, I the pacing's weird. I don't know what else to say.
Granted, lots of things have changed since this, but with an estimated budget of 291 million, it is one of the most expensive films ever made. But I'm
I
like, there
believe
are a
it.
lot of, I mean, I believe it, but at the same time, there are a lot of shitty movies now with like crazy budgets that I'm like, well, at least this one like felt like the budget was to a certain degree like justified.
Wasn't it for something out recently that had like an astronomical budget that they could never actually attempt to make back?
Um, I mean, I feel like there's been several of those, but I'm sure there was something.
Oh,
Oh, it was the
Snow White.
well, no, yes, Snow White, but also that Netflix one that the Russo brothers made
Oh yeah,
was
Electric
supposed to be,
State.
yeah, it was supposed to be a
Just
crazy budget.
it was like $200 million for a non-ticket sales
Hmm.
IP.
Which
What?
is wild.
Why in the world would you greenlight that? Like that? That's signing on to lose money because there's no way you'll ever make back that revenue.
Just in subscribers, no.
No.
Either way, so yes, looking at the plot though, the I feel like a lot of the Mission Impossible movies kind of center around a certain amount of like MacGuffin thing. Like, oh, maybe it's
Um,
uranium. Oh, maybe it's this key. Like,
I mean, sure,
there's a
but
lot of those.
also, how else do you do a spy movie if you're not trying to
Well, no,
covertly find a MacGuffin?
and I'm just reading, looking, and remembering from the plot list here, but I like the submarine stuff. I'm
I was
looking.
gonna
That's
say,
one of
so
the main
this,
things I'm looking forward to for the
yeah,
next one.
so this opens with a Russian submarine essentially being tricked into attacking itself. I mean, and this is something we might repeat, or at very least I might repeat several times during this. But even that scene feels like it could have been tightened up for pace. Like it feels like it goes on a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple spots throughout the movie where they could have trimmed a little. Like later on when they're in that like the nightclub.
Oh, I mean, all of the Paris sequence could have been cut by like 15 minutes and lost nothing.
And granted, you probably could have cut quite a bit off that train scene and would have been fine, to be honest.
I
Like it's
mean,
fun,
in my
but
perfect world, they should have opened with the train scene
for the next one,
for Final Reckoning because
yeah,
there's such a natural end to where after the Paris scene and they kill off Rebecca Ferguson, they have that whole like hush hush conversation where they induct Haley Atwell. That's
yeah,
where
they
you
could have
should have
cut it
ended
there.
it.
I agree. I honestly really agree.
because then
Granted,
you have a super awesome, like, again, because the train sequence, as far as like action set pieces, it's
oh no,
great.
it's cool, but because it's basically almost at the very end, it feels like the movie really drags at the
It,
end.
it even if it's not there in runtime, it feels like a third of the movie.
Yeah.
But again, if you had, if I'm Christopher McQuarrie in the editing room, if you take that and you open your next movie with that's a banger cold opening, right? And then you drop, Final Reckoning after they completely drop the train off that bridge. I think that would be much better.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously they're gonna have to not one up that, but one up that. I mean, I've already
I
seen
mean,
trailers
and
for the
that
next one where he's
is
on the side of a plane, but like, I feel like the train might have been better.
and that is a separate conversation I was also thinking about at work today. I'm like, okay, is there like any specific things that I want to bring up other than the runtime feeling bloated? Is that with each Mission Impossible movie, Tom Cruise does have to like one up the stunt that he did in the last one.
Hmm.
I feel like this one is going to be very difficult to top in terms of like huge immersive action pieces, because like there's like three really big ones in this, and I don't know what else they're really going to do outside of like deep sea diving in the Arctic when they're going to that, like,
I think that'll probably be a good portion of it.
yeah, I mean, and they have showed off in the trailer of him hanging upside down off a biplane, which is cool.
Yeah, it is cool, but
But
I
I
don't
feel
know. It
like
doesn't
they've
feel
done
as
something like that
yes,
in Rogue Nation, where he
exactly.
boards the plane already taking off and he's hanging
Yes.
off the side of like a
Hmm.
Boeing plane, which is
Yes.
admittedly kind of cool.
What do you think about like the bad guy being basically just AI?
So, do we mean the bad guy as in like the entity, or do we mean the
Yes,
bad guy as in legally
Gabriel.
not Antonio Banderas?
I mean, we can talk about both. I mean, as
So,
like
I think the entity being both the MacGuffin and the big bad is okay.
it's okay. I agree.
Like, it feels like an enemy I would have read about in the 90s when we didn't understand AI like we understand it now. I mean, and maybe I don't understand AI, and I'm perfectly fine with that being the case. But like for an all-knowing, all-seeing, like calculating percentages down to like the minuscule numbers, if that's what your setup is, there's no way you could realistically win.
Yes. I mean, obviously all the like human factors of that, but like even yeah, I I even just the name, I don't even like it seems
That
too,
that kind of frustrated me too.
you know what I mean?
Like you never give it a name in 3 hours. You can't come up
It's
with a
just
villain
the
name,
entity. Come on.
which I thought they were gonna name it Dead Reckoning, because the title doesn't seem to have much to do
With
with
anything?
the actual story.
Yeah,
Because
at
in
least the
Fallout, because they're looking for uranium. In Ghost Protocol, oh, it's okay. We've been excommunicated. We're going rogue.
and Rogue Nation was like the non IMF bad
Yeah.
guys. Yes, no,
So
I agree.
what
This
does
kind of doesn't
Dead
really have
Reckoning
anything.
have to do with it?
I don't know.
Like, are we saying, oh, he's reckoning the dead because it's Gabriel back from the first movie? I mean, maybe
I
that
don't
seems
know.
kind of weak, though.
And like, I mean, if you as the Antonio Banderas adjacent, I like him, but I don't know. Especially when you put they threw this like a quick little backstory of him knowing Tom Cruise from when he was younger, and he's the reason he's with IMF. But I'm like, you haven't referenced this in the first 7 movies,
Well, and that's
and
also weird. Like, you want to reference the Brian De Palma Mission Impossible from 1998? Like, okay, sure, fine. Make it make more sense, because I'd forgotten about that. I'm sure most of the audience had forgotten about that.
well, I mean, whatever his name is, wasn't even in that movie. It was all John Voight was the main bad or like double agent bad guy in
Yes.
that. And I don't know, especially when they just not just but like the last Mission Impossible prior to this was Fallout. When you put him as a character next to Cavill, I'm like, oh, it's just so much better, dude. I mean, as a character, he's just more interesting.
I agree, and that was my other thought this afternoon while I was at work thinking about, okay, what's topics I want to discuss this evening. Um it's going to be extremely difficult to not constantly try to compare this to Fallout just the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we shouldn't try to avoid that, but I'm like, okay, it's going to be hard to judge this as its own movie in a vacuum when it's this much of a, hog in a big whirling machine that is Mission
Mm-hmm.
Impossible. Because if you say, okay, which is better, Dead Reckoning Part 1 or Fallout, the answer is obvious. It's Fallout. Now,
Mm-hmm.
is that
No,
because
I
it's a better
100% agree.
movie or because it's a complete story?
I think it's a I think it's a better movie.
I do too, but I don't want to just say because Cavill's better. Like, I know there's got to be another reason.
Well, keep in mind, it is not a complete story. It's the end of a story because the other bad guy besides Cavill in it has been the bad guy for the last like 2 or 3 movies.
Oh yeah, the weird terrorist guy.
Yes, so it is just, and maybe we might feel the same way about Fallout as we feel like about Final Reckoning. Maybe because again they're both the ending of their kind of the story run.
Maybe.
But yes, again as and maybe by the end Gabriel will have more
Well,
I don't
I
know,
think
character.
so. What I think makes Fallout better as far as like a movie with stakes is that there is a real world like physical like thing that will happen if Tom Cruise isn't able to run fast enough, right? Like we're going to set off a bunch of nukes.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, it's much more of like a metaphysical, oh, the concept of truth will be destroyed, and that's less of an immediate obvious thing I can point to as a viewer and say, okay, that's the stakes that we're trying to fight against. That makes sense. This is kind of more of like a nebulous,
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's very
philosophical
true.
threat than a physical one. So maybe that's why the entity comes across as less of a threat in this, I think, because that's when I think of why I don't like the entity as much as I like Cavill, is because Cavill feels like a threat and the entity kind of doesn't.
I'm also at the same time like skimming over the plot real quick.
Sure.
Thoughts on Rebecca Ferguson dying?
I remember reading an interview that she wanted to. She was given the option, okay, oh, do you want to be killed off in this one? And she's like, yes, I do. Because the shooting schedule is so hectic and there's so many different locations you have to go shoot in. You
Mm-hmm.
essentially have to block out like 2 years of your life as an actor and not take any other roles or any other projects. And she's like, well, I got this Apple TV show called Silo going,
That's supposed to be very good.
which supposed to be very good. I don't want to pay for Apple TV though, so
No one does.
and she had some other stuff going on. She's like, you know what? I'm good leaving this behind. I've had a great time with it. Obviously, it's been good for my career. I'm good with stepping back. So I both
Have
understand that
Haley
attitude,
Atwell take up the mantle. Yeah.
and I like how they did it in this. Where I mean, yes, she's killed off by being stabbed, but she also puts up a pretty good fight sequence. So I'm okay with that. It didn't feel cheap.
Noticed they brought back sure Benji and Vin Rames, but they also brought back Vanessa Kirby. And I was when this first
Hmm.
came out, I was like, oh, what? It's kind of a random like an arms dealer that they used for like 20 minutes in the previous movie. Okay, like I'm not complaining.
I like her as an actress.
Me too.
I also think she's quite pretty, but that has nothing to do with it.
It has nothing to do with it now.
Just like I'm a big fan of Haley Atwell's acting, and has nothing to do with the fact that she's beautiful. These both things can be true. So, do you think that having the kind of like the subplot of the American guys chasing them and also running into the NSA superiors constantly, do you think that needed to be in there? Do you think it made it too convoluted? Because I kind of
I
felt that
liked
way on
having them in
Betrayed.
there. I think they will play in like if you look in the trailers for the new one, they are in it. So I'm glad that at least it's not just in this for a tiny little bit. And uh, I like that the main CIA guy, who you all recognize from Kong Skull Island, and he's done other things, but like I don't know,
Hmm.
I like him as kind of an actor, and there's like this kind of underlying like kind of has vibes against Tom Cruise for whatever reason.
He kind of reminds me of like if you can't afford Gerard Butler, that's who you get.
To a certain degree, yes.
But I mean, that's not like an insult to him. That's just kind of the roles I always see him playing. So, what's something that like stood out to you as something that you're like, ah, I like that. What's like a high point from this, at least to you?
I mean, I actually have mixed feelings about it, but at least I think it's at least something interesting and fun. But the car chase scene with the little Fiat that's
Oh, in
electric powered and
Paris,
boosted
or
was
is that
fun,
Paris, or is that?
and I think that's Rome.
Yes, I like that a lot too. I think it's very in keeping with Tom Cruise of doing, hey, we're going to do a lot of physical stunts, but also it highlights how his character Ethan Hunt has a lot of chemistry with Grace's character, and they kind of get to know each other through the car chase. I like that as an alternative to them just sitting down and having a conversation.
Well, sure, and like all of the pickpocketing back and forth between his lighter and everything else. Oh, that's
Hmm.
good.
It's a nice
Um,
dynamic.
yeah, the and they just like they brought back Vanessa Kirby. They also brought back from the I think it was from the first one, Kittredge, the director Eugene Kittredge, the
Oh,
guy who
Carrie
makes
Ells.
no the guy who like accepts Grace's IMF.
Oh, yes.
He was
Um,
in I want to say in the first or the second Mission Impossible.
I believe he shows up in number two onward
Got it. Okay,
because
because I was like, oh, that's
it's all like oh, what's that guy's name in number one?
well
Who ends up
in
being a
the
double agent? We just said his name,
John Voight,
John
and
Boy.
then
It was
later
all him in the
on,
other one.
later on it was Alec Baldwin, and then he got killed
Yep.
off.
Well, I think when they were filming this in like, if this came out 2023, they probably filmed this in 2020, something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Alec Baldwin was having his like murder trial stuff going on, so
Which that movie is actually I just saw a trailer for it.
that's it is functionally insane that you still want to release that.
It's it's a bummer because like if that thing didn't happen, I was like I kind of wish there were more westerns, but like it doesn't even look that good of a western. But uh, yeah,
Like, oh, I don't know whether or not I want to support it because on the one hand, I wish there was more Western as well, but on the other hand, or I don't know if I want to support the movie where Alec Baldwin murders someone.
I mean he didn't do it on purpose, and it was totally on fault of
Yes,
whoever was like the prop master.
he shot the prop master.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And well, whoever is like
Okay,
responsible
so
for like
so
the
he didn't
guns.
murder them, but I don't know if I'd be comfortable watching a movie where a production member was killed by the lead actor, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it'll go straight to streaming.
Yeah, maybe. Um, what else? Again, I don't have a ton to say about this, to be perfectly honest. Again, it's fun. I'm glad it was made. I don't know.
Well, I think we both mentioned how if we were to quote unquote fix it, we would just cut some of the train sequence down or entirely out. I guess that sort of thing. If you had to give this a rating out of 5, where would you put it?
Well, let me look at my letterbox and see what
No,
I
no, no,
put
no.
it
Off the top of your
as.
head, you don't got to check your letterbox. Trust your feelings, Anakin.
Well, I have reviewed this several times, and when I first watched it, I gave it a solid 4 out of 5, and I said the man can run. Because I mean, maybe that's something we should address, but like, I feel like it might be even in his contract that he has to do like his Tom Cruise run in every movie.
I so I think it's that, but also like I think it's so much of a well-known meme now that they have to.
Sure. And I will say, I think this is the first movie that I think about it is where I actually see him looking kind of like an old man. Not like old man, but
Well, I
like,
mean, you can see that he doesn't look as young, but that's kind of okay.
well, I'm okay with it. But at this, again, with all the crazy stuff he does, I know he is actually doing it, which is awesome. But I do kind of want final. I mean, I think I referenced this when I talked about this on my other podcast. Is like I want Final Reckoning to be the final Tom Cruise mission. I want like either pass the torch or do something else. Like I don't want you trying to be like, oh, I'm gonna go do crazy stunts and save the world when I'm 70. I don't know. I'm kind of ready for that. Like pass the baton, dude. Someone else can save the world.
So that was also something I was thinking of, is that I also want them to do that. How would you like them to continue their franchise? Because it's clearly too successful for Skydance to stop making them. Like, they're
Oh
going to
yeah,
make more
they're definitely
regardless.
going to make more of these.
Do you want them to reboot it? Do you want them to say, okay, the story's not about Ethan Hunt anymore, it's about fill in blank, it's this character?
It might be
In
Glenn Powell.
in
Who knows?
in what
Um,
direction would you like them to take it?
I would want maybe in Dead Reckoning have like some sort of, maybe it's Haley Atwell, but I think she's too. She doesn't have the background for it as the thief. I don't know. I don't think she's the right fit. But start playing up some sort of apprentice or like some segue character that even if by the end of Dead Reckoning, or excuse me, Final Reckoning, they're not there yet, sure, but like I don't know. I don't think you could reboot it because I mean it's been like 25 years at this point of Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the move. Like a restart is not the move. I think you have to keep going. But that's just, I don't know, that's just my opinion, but
I could see them like doing Haley. I keep thinking Haley Steinfeld. It's a different person. I could see them doing Haley Atwell like stepping into
nah.
the. Well, I
She's
mean, at the very very end of Final Reckoning, where she's grown a lot as a character. She has new
okay, maybe.
skills.
Maybe.
Like, if it's that Tom Cruise, let's say they make it to the submarine, he turns off the entity, but he's shot and he dies, and he stays in the frozen water. She's there. She's like, oh, don't worry, Ethan Hunt, I'll carry on your legacy, or or whatever, right? She now has a changed personality. She has a bunch more skills. She's a lot more in shape. So
I think that's a lot of ifs.
well, possibly so. I'm saying they could do that, but I think it is more likely that a brand new agent just takes control of the team and they sell the next one on it's Mission Impossible like you've never seen it before.
Like
Where it's,
Mission Impossible, a new dawn or a new something, or like
you
yes.
know, Ethan Hunt followed the rules in his own way, but this guy breaks all the rules. Something like that.
Well, when you say something like that, like I don't know, Haley Atwell, even if they do a lot of like character development, she doesn't give the
She doesn't seem to.
commanding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, not her specifically, but that
The
character
the
definitely
character, the character.
doesn't.
Yes, yes.
But who knows? Who knows?
Okay.
So you checked
Who?
your
Okay.
letterbox?
Yes. So it started out as a 4. After rewatching it 2 more times over the last 2 years, it has gone down to a 3.5 because I think it is just because of how bloated it is, and I mean it's fun, but there's I don't know, I especially now that I compare it so much more to Fallout, I'd probably call it a 3.5.
That's also what I'm thinking. Okay, so am I rating it as a standalone movie, or am I rating it as, do I compare it to all the other ones? Because I think those numbers are different. Because for me, if it's a standalone action movie, or like we're still waiting for the other one, but like if I just view it as itself, this is probably a 4 out of 5. I think it runs a little long. It feels like it runs a little long, but what you get is still pretty good. If I compare it to all the other ones, or even just Fallout, it's definitely like a 3, because clearly the other ones are so much more tight and contained.
Well, I think maybe by the time they got to this one, they're like, hey, we have shown over the last like 3 or 4 movies that like A, these make money, B, like you should allow us to kind of do whatever we want. So maybe they got a little more free reign with this one to have, the run time of 3 hours for this one and the next to kind of stretch their legs and do whatever they want creatively. And
Yeah,
sometimes that
maybe.
works and sometimes that doesn't. And I mean, if you look at this financially, it's still a success. It still made
Oh
money.
yeah,
I think it
100%.
grossed like 500 and something million off of a 200 million budget.
It was close to making the big B, close to making the 1 billion, but I don't think it did.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to talk about for Dead Reckoning Part 1 / Dead Reckoning?
No, other than I'm looking forward to the next one, but it has pretty high expectations.
Well, it's weird. It has high expectations, but again, we'll have to see what they do with the runtime. But because
or
This one was so long, and I
it
see that the next one is
has,
almost identical run times.
yeah.
I don't know.
I guess maybe high expectations isn't the right phrase. I think maybe it has a lot of potential to pay off, but that
That's
also
maybe a better way to
means
word it, because
you
pretty much
have
all
a,
of
on the other side of that sword, though, you have a lot of ways to have the final reckoning. But like, if we're to believe Skydance, the final Tom Cruise Mission Impossible, that is a hard, perfect end note to hit.
well, see, the movie's The Final Reckoning, but have they actually said this is? I don't know if they've actually said Tom Cruise is no longer making them after this. I don't think they've said that.
They haven't, but I think that's kind of like the implied. I don't know. That's certainly what I've assumed because that's definitely what that name implies to me.
I think, granted, I mean, I would say unless they kill him off in the next one,
Which they could.
he'll keep. They could. They very much could. But I think that's the only way that they have him stop doing these.
Yeah, something.
And if folks, if you have comments or compliments, complaints, anything like that about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 or not Part 1, again, I believe you can find this for free on Amazon Prime. Let us know, obviously. But the next segment we usually do is Icebreaker Audio, which is where we kind of just pick a kind of not generic, but semi generic question you might find when you start at a new job or are going to a new school or something like that, where you are trying to get to know someone. So instead of being handcuffed to each other and driving around the streets of Rome, we do this instead. And yeah, if you have suggestions of what Hayden and I should be asking each other, obviously let us know. And I believe it's my turn for a question this week. So, Hayden, what is the last book you either listened to or read?
I mean, I guess I have answers for both. So I've been listening to two different books. I've been listening to Andy Serkis read The Hobbit.
Oh, I bet that'd be pretty fun.
Oh, it's delightful. I mean, because clearly, he's been in a few of them, but he's
And he can do the characters, yeah.
well, and that's just it. He can do different voices for everyone. It's great. And then also I've been listening to some verses of the Bible to try and do the whole, listen to it throughout the year, and then by the end of the year you should be done with Revelations. But I'm
Oh,
quite behind.
interesting. Okay.
It's a very common thing, but I'm
Okay.
I'm way behind with keeping up with it. And then the physical book that I'm reading is called The Harbor Master, and uh, Duncan will probably know this, but for the audience here, I like buying old books that I know nothing about, based purely on, I open them. Okay, when was this printed? Currently, this one is from 1920 something or other, and I will be the first to admit that does not always yield the greatest of actual reads. But I like the idea that I'm owning a piece of history like that. So it's a little slow so far. It's mostly like an old salty sea captain just relaying past stories to some
Okay.
younger guy. Well, it's okay.
And there's nothing else that you're reading physically?
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
If I'm gonna be physical ink on paper reading, I like doing one at a time, just the way my brain is.
That's fair. Oh, I get that. So I have been reading physical copy right now. I'm reading In Oceans Deep, which is uh it's sort of a like how many different ways can we talk about like different like avenues of like where it's like a good portion of the book is from uh like stories and like the history of commercial diving, like diving bells and like hazmat suits and like saturation diving. Portion of it is from like scuba stuff. Part of it is from like surfers. It's been an interesting read. I haven't dug super far into it yet. I think I'm only like
That's cool.
6 years, 70 pages in, but and then I am listening. So I've never been like an audiobook guy, but then someone's like, hey, there's this great book series you should be listening to. Uh, and it's basically Hunger Games, but way more violent and much more more sci-fi than any. I don't know how to explain it, but it's called Red Rising is the first one, and of course I only get a certain amount of minutes slash hours of audiobook included with our Spotify plan.
Yeah, I have noticed that
And
too.
I burned through that way too fast. So I'm literally counting until May 1st when I get more time, because I'm on chapter like 38 of 42. Like I'm almost at the end, and it's like, oh, you gotta wait. Um, so it's been very, very good. I highly recommend that. It's a part of either a trilogy or just a series of 4 or 5. And they're
That's
not. I
cool.
mean, they're not small books. They're pretty good. But
That's cool.
first time like branching into just listening, and it's been pretty enjoyable. From all the times that I'm either like driving to and from work or anything like that. Um, yeah, that's more or less what I've been reading, what I've been listening to. Um,
Cool.
yeah. Granted, I would say maybe this is like a follow up question or part 2 or whatever, but generally speaking, I don't love nonfiction. So the In the Ocean's Deep one is nonfiction, but it's only something that I have interest in because like the topic is very specific to me.
Yeah,
Generally,
I'm
I'm
kind
much
of the
more
same way.
fiction and like sci-fi over fantasy every time for me. I know you probably prefer more fantasy.
It depends. Usually, yes, but it depends because sometimes fantasy is how can I make my own version of Lord of the Rings by only changing a few different names? And that's what a lot
Yeah,
of modern fantasy turns into.
sure. I mean, that does make sense. Um, I haven't, I mean, it's been a while since I've either read or listened to any of them, but like, I like a good murder mystery, but I feel like they're hard to find like an actual good murder mystery because I feel like
Yeah,
sometimes it's pretty like, oh, I know in the
because
first
a
10
lot of them
pages
are
who
also
did it.
similar. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There was I can't remember the name. There was two of them. They were like connected, but they wasn't like the same story. It was the same like person in it. It was about a murder mystery like novelist, uh, and like things were happening around him that he then eventually would write them into books. But like it's him in the story. But I can't
Hmm.
remember. I think it's The Word is Death or The Word is Murder or something like that. Those are really good
Okay.
if you're looking for something else. But yeah, that's like I don't know if we said this at the top, folks, but sometimes this section is long and deep about Chicka Wow Wow, or sometimes it's short and not so deep. But yeah, I guess that's icebreaker audio. And then it's what we watched or looking forward to watch. Hayden, what have I mean? We'll talk about it, but
Well, something that I watched recently, and I know that you also watched recently because we were there together. The Revenge of the Sith got re-released for its 20th anniversary, and we went and saw that in theaters.
super fun, like
Super fun.
so fun.
Weirdly sad for me, I guess. Just
I
because,
didn't know about that.
well, no, just because I had the moment sitting there thinking, oh, this is so much fun. I was 12 years old when this came out. I'm 32 now. I mean, yeah, I mean, yes, obviously, no shit, Hayden. That's how time works. But it just, I don't know. I had like the weird moment of sitting there. I was just like, the passage of time. I'm old.
Well, I
But
think
yes,
about it. If
movie's great.
I don't, I mean, it is great. I don't think I saw this in theaters, so this would be like my only time ever seeing it in theaters, which I thought was actually really
Well, I
cool.
mean, you would have been 8, I
8,
think, right?
exactly. I don't think they would have taken me to see this when I was 8.
Well, especially the ending bits where they're,
Yes,
it's
yes.
Anakin screaming and crawling through gravel while his skin
Hmm.
lights on fire. Probably not.
And yes, I was talking to our dad about this, but um, so that came out in 2005.
Yeah.
I did not realize just how like big movies were in 2000. And like so there was Pirates of the Caribbean, Star
Oh,
Wars,
yeah. Just an
like
insane year.
Lord of the Rings, and I think I mean around that time is the end of like the Jurassic Park stuff. Like
Yeah, the
Jesus Christ,
the
dude.
the original like Spielberg ones, yeah.
Yeah, just oh my god, dude! Like just banger after, and that doesn't include all the other movies, obviously that came out those years, but like
Well, it's also
huge
like I
movies.
want to say the last of the original Matrix trilogy also came out within
Oh,
that
yep,
time.
yep, 100%.
Just just nuts the amount of classics that I
Mm-hmm.
mean You know,
And
I
it's
guess
weird.
that kind of
You
makes you wonder, okay, 20 years from now, what's going to be the classics that came out in 2025?
I don't even have an answer for you because like
Well,
nothing
no,
is like, oh,
I
that.
guess we wouldn't know yet, but it's just like, just kind of a crazy thing to think about, I guess.
Definitely, definitely. And we will talk about this much more. So this coming week is May the 4th, like the very classic Star Wars holiday.
May the
And we're
4th, and
gonna
then the
do
day
a
afterward is going to be Revenge of the 5th.
yes. And so either on May 4th or 5th, somewhere around there, you'll see an extra bonus episode from us. And that'll probably be the special feature for that month. And
Star
we'll
Wars
basically
themed
be,
episode where we
yeah, we'll
just kind
basically
of
be talking about all things Star Wars.
we might do, you know, just we might do our thoughts about the movies in order. Might just be a generalized discussion, but we want to talk about Star Wars because
We're both
we like
fans.
Star Wars a lot. I think that is kind of like a universal experience.
I would say generally, obviously, I mean, there are people that I've met that have just movies were not really a thing for them growing up. They were doing other things, and they just
Sure.
like, oh, I've never seen Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or whatever. So, is there anything else you watched this week?
Full movies, no. There's been a handful of trailers come out, but we'll get to that after you talk about the full movies you watched, if there was any.
Did I talk about King of New York last week? I don't
I
think
don't
I did.
remember.
No, because I think the last thing I talked about last week was Land of the Lost, which is such a pile of
Very true.
garbage. So
It's so
it's so
awful.
bad. Either way, King of New York. This was something that on Instagram Reels I saw some like clips of. I was like, oh, this looks interesting. This is 1990, and it very much looks like 1990. Uh, a mob boss gets out of prison, and it's about him like reclaiming his territory. Can you have any guesses on who the mob boss is? Who's supposed to be like intimidating?
Is it going to be someone I don't expect?
It's Christopher Walken, and it's ridiculous.
Well, I think he can be intimidating in a weird way.
I don't. It's weird. Like there's some of the movie that's fun, and there's a lot of characters in it. They're like, oh shit, this person's in this. Oh shit, like Lawrence Fishburne is in this, and he's so young that he doesn't call like in the credits. He's not Lawrence Fishburne. He's Larry Fishburne.
Oh, that's weird.
It's weird. I saw that. I was like, what the fuck?
I
Um,
refuse to believe his name is Larry. That's not cool enough. And Lawrence Fishburne has always been cool.
exactly. And yeah, he looks like he's like 22, maybe. So I saw that. I
Did you
watched
like
for the.
it?
Um, I would give it like a 2.5 to 3 out of 5. Like, it was fine. I wouldn't say I loved it. I wouldn't say I hated it. I don't think I really
Run
need
of
to
the mill
rewatch
90s
it.
movie.
Yes. So I've seen, I feel like bits and pieces of Tombstone before, but I've never actually
It's
sat
a
down and watched all of Tombstone. It's
banger
great.
movie.
I will say, like, Kurt Russell is obviously like the star of this. It's his movie, and he has that stardom power to him. Sam, what's his name? What's his name? Sam Elliott has the mustache, has the voice. Sure.
I mean, they all have pretty great
Well,
mustaches, I'll be honest.
yes, but hold on. Val Kilmer basically steals every scene he's in. He's fantastic. Like literally, like there's a bit where him and this another gunslinger is speaking Latin to each other in the bar. And I watched an interview where they broke down like what they say to it. It's super interesting. And then Bill Paxton just didn't need to be in this movie. He's such a
um
way. He is like the
I
third
think I
brother.
I
They could have
think
put
you
anyone
need
in.
someone. Well, right. I think you need someone to be the third brother.
Well, that's
But
fine. I'm just saying, like he was.
when you
I don't
have
know if it
all
was the
these like
story.
standout performances, you need someone with more aura, if you will, to be a young person. Um, More aura than Bill Paxton.
Yeah, he felt so lukewarm compared to everyone else.
Yeah,
So that was Tombstone. I would probably give that a very solid. Like that was a 4.5 to 4. I mean, that's a very solid
it's
movie.
very good.
And then just yeah, Mission Impossible and Star Wars, which we'll talk about later. But that's more or less everything I've watched.
Well, there's been a handful of other trailers, but the main one for me is that they put out the first full official trailer for the Zach Kreger movie Weapons, who did the horror movie Barbarian, which I am a big fan of. So I'm super excited to see what he does with this, just because anytime when someone is able to make a non-formulaic horror movie, I'm always more interested in what they're going to do next, because that is one of the most copy paste genres out there. As much as I love it,
Sure. And I mean, you don't see a ton from the trailer, but I
no,
don't
and
know
that's
if I've ever
great.
seen. Well, I don't know if I've ever seen Josh Brolin in a horror movie,
No,
which seems interesting.
well, see,
But
I also
it
can't
also
tell
gives
if
me
this is
like,
going to be a horror movie. It kind of
it's
looks like Prisoners.
well, that's what I was about to say. I was like, Prisoners was like a heavy thriller, but I don't know if I'd call it horror.
Definitely not. So I love that the trailer doesn't, like, don't get me wrong, it is a full trailer, but it is edited in such a way that it doesn't actually really show you anything. It just shows you a bunch of creepy scenes all kind of together. And I love that. And I'm probably gonna avoid any more promotional material for it. So I'm as fully surprised as I was when I watched Barbarian, because one of the best things about that movie is that, like, midway through, the plot does a 180 and completely switches what kind of movie it is.
Hmm.
And that was awesome to see for the first time, because you don't expect it. Because I'll spoil some of the plot here. I don't think you'll watch
Oh,
it.
that's fine. No worries.
Essentially, it's about a woman who, you know he she yeah, she gets like an Airbnb type thing, finds out that the owner is also going to be staying there, and she's like, oh, he's a creepy guy and he's like stalking her. And then, like, the midway point through the movie, she finds out there are a clan of, like, cannibalistic mole people living in the basement that then spend the rest of the movie trying to eat her. Like, it is
Okay.
it was nuts to watch this for the first time, because I'm like, okay, it's Bill Skarsgård, the guy who played Pennywise. He's doing some cool, creepy stuff. He's weird and off putting. Oh, what the fuck is this now? I loved how it completely and very seamlessly changed the plot, like, midway through. So I want to be as surprised with whatever weapons turns out to be when I see it.
I am. I'm not like super interested, but I think it's so the smashing machine. What is it called? Crashing machine.
I think it is just called the Smashing Machine.
Whatever it's called. The like biopic about the MMA,
Hmm.
early MMA wrestler guy that The Rock is playing. I mean, it very much looks like a A24 biopic,
I feel like if
but
this wasn't Benny Safdie,
that
you
also
or
helps.
like you say, like, that's a lot of it, because I have such faith because of their other projects. If this was a
Sure.
biopic and you changed nothing else and it was just some random director, I don't think you would have that same kind of draw, because a lot of it is having to get over the fact that you have to watch The Rock try to act.
Well, granted, and I think this is the first time looking at him, he doesn't look like The Rock,
No, he has some prosthetic stuff, but, like,
which I think it helps
which,
for
yeah,
sure.
definitely helps.
Like, yes, he's still built like him, but like they covered up tattoos, they've given him hair, like his face looks a little different. But
Hmm.
so I don't think I don't think I'm like running to the theater to see it, but I would say I'm interested.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, how it turns out.
Now You See Me, Now You Don't released a trailer, and it get again. I
I'm
think they're a
not the
little.
hugest of fans. I'm like,
They were
they're
fun.
fine. They're not my cup of tea. I don't think. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them, but they're not my favorite thing in the world. But this one just kind of looks like more of the same.
Well, it looks like this one, Mark Ruffalo isn't in it, but then they added on again. I don't know how he keeps getting roles, but Justice Smith.
I noticed that too.
But I did see that the guy from Holdovers in it, so I'm
Yeah,
glad that he's getting work because I actually like him a lot. But yeah, I feel very mid about that.
it is weird to see Jesse Eisenberg, after coming off, like, Oscar talks and all these things, like, oh, you're gonna make another Now You See Me movie. Okay.
Well, I can't remember if it was you who sent me this or if I saw this from someone else where like uh an interview was asking him about a potential third one. This is back when they hadn't said they were making a third one.
I
He's
don't
like,
remember.
"Oh,
It
okay,
must not have been me, because I don't
must
think
not
I've
have been
seen
you." But
that.
basically, someone was like, "Hey, like, if they if the story made sense to come back for a third, would you come back for a third? And he was like, oh, I would do this every single day. These movies are so much fun to
Well,
make.
I mean,
And I'd like, he's
if
like,
he's
oh, he
doing what he
also,
loves, sure.
yeah, and I think he also was like, oh yeah, and it doesn't like, he's like, not as a discredit, but like it doesn't. There's not a ton of depth to something like this, so it doesn't
Sure.
emotionally or like mentally take a lot out of me. So I do kind of get that.
That's kind of all the things that I've, watched or looking forward to watching. There's not a whole lot of new stuff
Sure.
other than
We referenced it last week, but Sinners, which has been out now for like a week or so, week and a half, still
two.
doing very well. And
It was
now,
only recently unseated at the top box office place by Thunderbolts.
which people have been saying Thunderbolts is actually supposed
You
to
know,
be pretty good, so
I
we'll see.
want it to be good. I've had
I also want it to be good,
I've
but
just I've had my faith in Marvel burned so many times now.
well, just the whole and again, everything from the trailers, I'm like, oh, the power of friendship, like the whole we're not super, but we're still heroes vibe.
And the whole thing that, oh, we're gonna defeat Superman if he was possessed by the Grim Reaper with the power of friendship.
Which again, as a villain, as a character, Sentry's fucking awesome. That's why. That's
Yeah.
again still one of the main reasons I want to go see this. But either way, sorry. Sinners. My boss has now said we're actually going to show it at my theater, so I'll be able to
Oh,
watch that. So I'm
nice.
looking forward to that because I again also have a shoestring budget for life right now, so I'm trying to not pay
Yep.
for a movie.
Yep. On that note, if you could sneak me into said theater for Sinners, I would not
Yeah,
not
well, I mean,
complain either.
we'll see how. So right now we only have it lined up to play for 1 week,
Hmm.
but we will. So there's basically like the Accountant 2 ends, and then there's a 2 week gap between the Accountant and Mission Impossible. So we have booked Sinners for the first week, and I think we're seeing if Sinners do well enough, we'll book it for the second, or we'll
Sure.
bring in something else for that second week. But yeah, TBD, TBD. That's I think everything that either has come out, we've watched, looking forward to watch. That is Icebreaker Audio. That is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning / Part 1 or not, depending on where you look and find it. Is there anything else, Hayden, we should reference before we close?
Um, check us out on our socials. Check out our comments. Let us know what you think. And that's kind of all I have.
And before we go, yes, obviously this will get posted as well as uh, a Star Wars specific special feature. So look for that. And then next week, for our regularly scheduled episodes, which we record around Wednesdays and post on Sundays, look for the, as Hayden might put it, I don't agree with this, but the
What?
cinematic masterpiece of the
Oh,
Wild Wild West,
okay. I
which
I wanna.
Will Smith turned down The Matrix to do that,
Well,
which is
okay.
insane.
It is insane. I just want to preface my reason for enjoying this movie is that this is something that becomes that is so god awful and terrible it becomes enjoyable and funny to laugh at it. You have to go into it with that kind of mentality, or yes, you will hate it.
I think I am already planning to watch it and make myself like several cocktails while watching it. I think that's my
That is
plan.
that is unironically the way to go.
Well, then that might be pretty fun. Who knows? Otherwise, if you're curious, I believe that is on HBO Max. I believe. I think we'll figure it out. Either way, that's what we're watching next week. But check out all the other fun stuff coming your way, folks. And this has been episode 45 of the Movie Bros podcast, and we'll see you all next week.